McNeil, the crypto curator. It's Thursday, so that means it's time for Bitcoin and politics. And we're going to talk about some politics today. But before we do, jump over to our sponsor, roundthex.com. Check out their website, sign up, link your credit card, debit card. If you do that and you use Bitcoin politics, they're going to give you $4 in Bitcoin. There's no better way. Hey, listen, $4 in Bitcoin, who knows what that'll eventually wind up being? It might be worth, hundreds of dollars in the future. So stack sats using Round the X, folks. Let's go ahead and get on with our show. All right, folks, listen, as you know right now, the regulatory environment is crazy. And there's a lot that's going on with regulators and there's a lot going on with the legislators. But I want to sort of focus on the legislators today. And here in the United States, that means Congress. And so the question is there a conspiracy in Congress? So the reason that I said that is a little clickbaitish, right? I don't think there's necessarily a conspiracy. And so if we look at the first slide, we'll look at the definition of conspiracy. And what does it say? A conspiracy is this. It's an agreement to perform together an illegal, wrongful, or subversive act. It's a group of conspirators, or it's an agreement between two or more persons to commit a crime or accomplish a legal purpose through illegal action. So now, some of you might say, well, after listening to what I'm going to discuss today, well, Paul, that is a conspiracy in Congress. and I wouldn't be one that would probably disagree. I think what's going on in Congress right now, specifically at the hands of our wonderful senator in Massachusetts, Senator Elizabeth Warren, I think that it could be posed sort of like a conspiracy. But and that's what I want to break down today and sort of talk to you guys about. So here's the question, as I mentioned before, the title of the show. Is there a conspiracy on Capitol Hill to take out crypto? Listen, crypto's been around for about 14 years. If Congress wants to take it out, why didn't they do it in the early days, right? When there was nothing. They could have squashed this thing like a bug and probably gotten rid of it right away. But for some reason, they let it go and go and go. And now that it's growing and growing and growing. If you remember back in 2011, 2010, I think it was just Bitcoin for the most part. Then Charlie Lee, he created Litecoin. And then as a result of that, we got Ethereum that came on the scene. And then the whole thing just blew up, right? We've got all the other crap that we got today. But note that the question is there a conspiracy on Capitol Hill to take out crypto, not Bitcoin, but crypto? And I believe that there really is a conspiracy to take out crypto. Now, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, she's pushing forward with a political campaign to regulate the crypto space, an industry that she and her coalition believes threatens national security. This is at the core of what Elizabeth Warren is supposedly trying to go after. She says this is about national security. This is about money laundering. This is about a whole bunch of other things that I think if we get caught up in just the headlines, we might miss. And I'm not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not going to say everything that Elizabeth Warren is talking about is just ridiculous nonsense, because she does have some points. And I think you'd have to sort of agree at some level that she does have some points. And so the effort that they're trying to do on Capitol Hill is not necessarily all bad, right? But I think that they might be going about it in an unwise fashion. And so this is what we're talking about. Now, at what Elizabeth Warren and her little group of army of folks are working at, it's the anti-money laundering bill is what they sort of titled it. It's a bipartisan, believe it or not. And again, this is staunch left Democrat Elizabeth Warren working with Republicans, a bipartisan anti-money laundering bill. It's called the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2022. This was actually submitted in the 117th Congress, but now we're in the 118th. It has to get resubmitted, and Elizabeth Warren plans on resubmitting this bill. This bill, it covers decentralized entities such as decentralized finance protocols and decentralized autonomous organizations. Those will soon, and she's soon going to reintroduce this, right, to Congress. Now, here's some of the things that she says. That's what she said. And so if we look at what she said, these are some quotes from the articles that I pulled from Cointelegraph and the Daily Huddle. And I'll read through them because I think they're important to sort of get an understanding of what Elizabeth Warren is really after. So she says, in other words, they want a giant loophole for DeFi written into the law, so they can launder money whenever a drug lord or a terrorist pays them to do so. Sorry, Lizzie, you're being a little sensationalist here. You need to relax. I don't think any DeFi protocol or any DeFi entity is trying to intentionally write the laws so that money launderers can launder money and drug lords and terrorists can. It's just nonsense, right? She goes on and says, they say and she's talking about Shapeshift here. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Shapeshift, you should be. This is Eric Voorhees' platform. Eric Voorhees is the founder of Shapeshift. And it's an exchange that was just like Coinbase, Kraken, and all the others, right? And what happened was that the SEC came against them, the regulators came against them, and they pretty much sued Eric Voorhees because they wanted all of his users' information. And Eric Voorhees basically told him to go take a hike. I'm not giving you my users' information. Well, that's when they really put the foot on his neck and they squashed him like a bug. And he said, that's it. I've had enough. I'm decentralizing this thing and I'm getting the heck out of here, right? So Elizabeth Warren's story, she says that Shapeshift was making this shift, quote, to remove itself from regulated activity. Translation, launder your money here. Not true, Elizabeth Warren. That is so not what happened. And it's disingenuous for you to say that because that is not what Eric Voorhees was saying. And that's not what he was getting at. But the regulated activity that he wanted to get away from was having to be forced by the government to give up users' information, name, address, all this other information that they asked for with AML. And that's what he was trying to get away from. And so they spun this thing into this whole, he's trying to do bad acts and he's trying to help launder money, which, by the way, I believe it was proven that that wasn't the case at all. She goes on and says this: the crypto market took in $20 billion last year in illicit transactions, and that's only the part we know about. Again, being sensationalist here, trying to make this seem like it's something really, nefarious. She get last quote. She says the current legal structure essentially holds up a giant sign over the crypto that says money laundering done here. Okay, Elizabeth, have it your way. Say what you want to say. Now, her bipartisan counterparts, and these are from two Republican senators. One says, which I almost have to laugh at this. The physician in me, what physician, says the risk of crypto do not outweigh the benefits. Until they solve the national security issues, I don't see the benefits outweighing the risk. Sorry there, Senator Roger Marshall, Kansas, no doubt, is saying this. Makes no sense. The next one is Senator John Kennedy. He's from Louisiana. And he says, what matters to me is Bankman-Fried, spreading money around Capitol Hill like it was dishwater, and nobody stopping at the time to ask any relevant questions about the company. I don't disagree with what Senator Kennedy said. I think a lot of them up on Capitol Hill should have. So time out. Who is this young kid that's talking about giving us $1 billion in funding? Like, what's going on? That should have been red flag, and everyone should have been screaming and yelling and saying, what the heck? Don't give me any money. I don't want it. But the money grubbers they are, they took it all in, right? And then crap hits the fan. Don't blame me, right? Right, gotcha. Okay. So now let's take a look at this Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2022, which is going to get reintroduced into the 118th Congress. These are the things that it's addressing. Now, this is what the previous bill did. If it's going to be in the new bill, we don't know, but this is what the previous bill said. It prohibited banks and other financial institutions from transactions with digital asset mixers, which were meant to mass transactions made on public blockchains. Again, this is not a bad thing. Will it allow bad actors to do things? Of course it will. Bad actors do things with the US dollar every day. I don't see them banning the US dollar, and I don't see them prohibiting banks and financial institutions from transacting with the US dollar. So what's the difference? It's no difference. Mixers should be used. It keeps your transaction anonymous. ZK Snark should be used. Monero should be used. All of these privacy-centric technologies should be used. Sorry, government, guess what? You have to do it the old school way. Put some boots on the ground. Go find these bad actors. But prohibiting using the mixers doesn't make sense. They go on and say it's to extend the anti-money laundering reporting requirements to include U.S. persons who transact $10,000 or more in digital assets using an offshore account, and require the Treasury Department to do anti-money laundering compliance examinations for money services businesses, the registration that large U.S. crypto companies fall under. I'm not going to squabble about this one. Guys, listen, we've been having this already for businesses. This is not something new. We should not be complaining about this particular part of the bill. Why? Because go into a bank and give them more than $10,000. They're going to have you fill out a form to explain where you got the money from. That's just the way that it goes. This is not something new. So for them to apply this to crypto, why not? There is no difference. We weren't squabbling about that before. Why would we want to squabble about it now? Okay, maybe some of us squabbled about it, but again, if you're doing legitimate business, you should be able to explain. If you give the bank $50,000, where did it come from? Okay, here's where this $50,000 in cash came from. I run a business, and we had a bunch of employees. A bunch of customers give us money in dollars, and now I'm taking that money deposited in the bank. I can show you that this is from cash receipts. Okay, great. Rock on, right? No problem. So when this new bill gets submitted, it's going to be interesting to see what actually is put forward and what passes. Now, Chainalysis. To support Elizabeth Warren and what she said, and it is true, January 12th reports from Chainalysis, from blockchain analytics from Chainalysis, which found that the total cryptocurrency value received by illicit addresses reached $20 billion throughout 2022. Can't get away from that, folks. I'm sorry. It's proven. Chainalysis proved it. What are we to say? It's true. So you can't hit back at Elizabeth Warren for making this statement, because it's an accurate statement, and I don't necessarily slam her for doing so. Here's what we need to understand. In this world of legislating this space, it's a double-edged sword, right? And why is that? Because and I think most of you would agree with this, we want the bad actors out. Listen, the Sam Bankman-Frieds of this world should not be allowed in crypto. They shouldn't. It causes too much damage. Do Kwon, same thing, right? Alex Mashinsky, same thing. All of these people doing the shady crap need to have some way to root them out of the system, or at least make the system so that it's not going to allow them to do those types of activities without some oversight. Who was watching Sam Bankman-Fried and all the mess that was going on? Regulators obviously weren't, and the legislators didn't have any insight either. A lot of people didn't have insight as to what he was truly doing, and this is why we got caught off guard as an industry. Same thing goes for Do Kwon. Same thing goes for Alex Mashinsky, right? We need to be careful in crypto that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Listen, I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Warren. I'm not a fan of all these Democrats, the way they talk about the Bitcoin mining, the energy problems, and blah, blah, blah. All of that's just false. Address the parts that they talk about that don't make sense, but the parts that do make sense, we've got to give some credence to what they're saying. And we've got to be able to say, okay, you're right there, you're wrong here. It's not that I hate you as a person, and let's not get personal, right? This is about legislating the crypto space, because here's the thing, folks. If we can get legislation right, and we can get regulation right in a friendly way that allows this space to thrive and grow, we're going to see this space evolve. And I believe ultimately hyper-Bitcoinization will happen. I hear the maxis right now screaming and yelling at me, we don't need regulation and we don't need legislation to have hyper-Bitcoinization. Sorry, guys, I get it, I understand. But how do you think large institutions are ever going to enter this space if there's not clear legislation or regulation? They just won't. And if we think that the bond market, gold market, stock market, all the other markets are going to transition into Bitcoin, it's not going to happen if there's not some legislative regulatory infrastructure to make that possible. As a matter of fact, the news came out and they were hitting back at who? At the money managers, right? Advisors, money financial advisors. You can't touch this stuff if yada yada yada, right? There's going to be laws coming out that's going to prevent them from getting people into crypto. Now, Bitcoin, no. Right now, I think Bitcoin is still a viable commodity that most people can actually handle, including the investment advisors. So just know, if we want the space to continue to evolve, we're going to have to play with Capitol Hill. We're going to play with the regulators. And this is what we're seeing right now. Look at Binance. Binance has gotten the boot put on their neck, and they're now saying, okay, we'll play the game. We'll give you some money, right? We will come in compliance. Coinbase trying to come into compliance. Kraken just gave up $30 million to come into compliance, right? We're going to see this compliance dance happen. It's going to continue to wash out all the riffraff. And eventually we're going to have a highly regulated, compliant industry. Everyone's going to be fine. Bitcoin goes to the moon. Assets go to the moon. Life is going to be great. But until then, we have to play. Now, what happened in Wyoming is incredibly interesting, right? Because in Wyoming, which they're totally different, thanks to Caitlin Long, Wyoming says crypto private key protection bill passed their legislature, right? So in Wyoming, and this is going to come into effect in July, Wyoming legislature has enacted a bill that forbids the forced production of a private key, and that's going to take effect in July. Additionally, it protects digital identities and other state granted rights with an exception. And it goes on and says, however, the rule states that no authorized action shall be prohibited by its interpretation. So what we're talking about here is that if you're in Wyoming and you hold private keys, they can't force you to reveal those private keys or the identity behind those keys, right? And so what this does, it gives you true privacy in Wyoming. Now, will this spread across other states? I bet you Texas is going to be next to enact something like this, and we're going to start to see the dominoes fall, and eventually federally it will. But the catch to this right now is that if there's something illegal going on with those wallets, they're going to force those private keys. They're going to force this turnover. And federally, that's where they're going to do it. The state won't have any recourse against that because that's the way that it is. But if it's not for that reason, I believe you'll have true privacy in Wyoming. And again, this is thanks to the work that Caitlin Long is doing in the state. And I believe Senator Lamas as well is going to help. Now, right now, this is just the state legislature. This has nothing to do with Senator Lamas. This is just the state. But I can see that boiling over to Senator Lamas starting to advocate for the same thing in Congress. It will take years before something like this ever happens on the federal level. But on a state-by-state level, I think we could be seeing the beginning of some things change when it comes to this. So this is the main part of what I wanted to cover on the show today. Is I wanted you guys to understand that while there might not, quote unquote, be a conspiracy on Capitol Hill, there are a lot of things going on when it comes to regulation and legislation that you need to keep up on. Now, I've encouraged folks, my last show, to reach out to your representatives, local, state, and federal, and at least communicate things. So right now, I've armed you with a lot of information. Go to your representative and say, hey, this thing Elizabeth Warren is going to do with this anti-money laundering bill, this Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2023, which will be called, here's my thoughts on that. I think this part's okay. I think this part's not okay. Talk to them, write to them, educate yourself on this stuff, because the more you do, the better off we all will be, because we're playing a part of this whole evolution of this regulatory environment. However, if we stay silent and we're the silent majority, the fringes are going to take over, and who knows what they're going to come up with. And this is why we get things that most of us don't agree with, specifically when it comes to the government and Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is on its own. It's in a class of its own. All this other crypto stuff, Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to go to wash that out. But when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin does what? Tick tock, next block. You see what Bitcoin's doing right now. Bitcoin continues to melt up. Many are still saying that this is a bull trap. That's yet to be seen. But what we know is that Bitcoin isn't dead. Remember when we kept hearing people say, Bitcoin's dead, Bitcoin's dead, Bitcoin. How many times? Go to 99bitcoins.com. I think it's 157 times that the media, the press, everybody said that Bitcoin's dead. It's just not true. And it's not going to go away. Bitcoin is never going to go away. And as Michael Saylor says, never sell your Bitcoin, right? Because here's the deal: 21 million Bitcoin, 8 billion people on the planet. There's a 21 quadrillion Satoshis. That'll be enough for those 8 billion people. So if you have a little Bitcoin, you're doing better than everybody else. If you have no Bitcoin, I can't help you. That's just on you. So let me wrap up this show. And again, I'm making these short and sweet because I know that your time is valuable and we're all busy. But thanks to my producer for putting my website up there. This is where you're going to get the information from me, a trusted source that's giving you the best curated information on the web. The articles that you see on the website, those 3 are the 3 most covered news articles of the day. Below those, I give you a video and a podcast of the day, something for you to watch, something for you to listen. So read, watch, and listen with me. Then I give you my shows and then some other information at the bottom. At the very top, there's a link that gives you my full daily brief that I'm updating throughout the day. I definitely want you guys checking that out on a regular basis because that's where all of the daily news is. And what I touch on the shows is just the tip of the iceberg. But you can get the full brief at the very, very top. In addition to that, if you want to connect with me throughout the day, because I am constantly talking throughout the day, Woobits is the way to do it. I know people are still hanging out in the Twitter sphere, but I sort of moved on, and now I'm on Woobits. And Woobits is a great platform. It's real people making real connections, having real conversations. You can't beat that. No bots, no scammers, no spammers, no bots. It's great. No algorithms to hide your information. Everybody gets to engage, and the engagement on the platform is at a high, super, super high. So definitely check out Woobits. You can connect with, unfortunately, Twitter, or you can connect with your Ethereum wallet. Just use MetaMask or use Trust Wallet, and you can log in to Woobits. So it's decentralized in that fashion, right? This is a Web3 platform. Now, I know Bitcoin Maxis, not for you. I'm sorry. I know you guys are on Nostra. If you're on Nostra, get your Nostra accounts, and you can be a Bitcoin-only platform and have fun talking to folks on there, right? But the beauty is we have options. We have so many options today. You guys should do that. Lastly, let me tell you about Bitcoin Live. Bitcoin Live is a ton of content. We cover a lot of different areas. It's not just one area that we're looking at. We don't just look at Bitcoin. Sorry, Maxis. We also look at altcoins. We look at DeFi. We look at Web3. We look at everything that's going on in the space. And we have so many great shows to do that with. Mine, of course, is Bitcoin and Politics on Thursdays, and Bitcoin is Free on Sundays. We've got our good friends, John and I'm going to draw a blank, Taylor, Style Pigeon. Probably shouldn't say Taylor, Style Pigeon. They run the Gingerly Show, which is amazing. We got 3D Changes, which he gives you really in-depth technical information when it comes to some of the aspects of the different industry. And then we've got Bitcoin Live, which have a lot of really cool NFTs projects on that I would hope that you guys would definitely check out. I'm not big in NFTs, and I watch the shows, and I get a lot out of them, so I think you guys will too. The best way to do it is by subscribing to our channel, ringing that notification bell, and liking the videos. That way, the algorithm on YouTube is going to keep presenting you with content that's coming from the Bitcoin Live family, and you're going to want to be tuned in to everything that we're talking about. And the best part of it is that you got our producer, Nick, who does a phenomenal job. So this is what we're doing here. And the reason that we do this is we want you to stay up to speed with what's going on around the industry. If you're tuned into Bitcoin Live, you're going to get that firsthand, great quality information. So I'm Paul McNeil, the crypto curator. I made this one short and sweet on purpose, just so I could hit it and go. And that way you guys are not going to sit here and listen to me ramble all day long. Hey, here's the thing. This is Thursday. The weekend's coming up. I would love if you guys leave me a comment and tell me, what do you think the price of Bitcoin will be next time I come on Thursday, Bitcoin Politics? Do you think the price is going to be higher or lower than where it is right now? Leave me a comment and let me know, because I am a perma bull. I think it's going to be higher. Let's see if I'm right. All right, you guys, have a nice day.